It doesn't look like it.
I was gonna
That's
say I'm still seeing the Buffy screenshot.
Mm-hmm.
how about now? And we're
Waiting.
live. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is the patron hangout discussion of Once More with Feeling. I'm sorry we're starting a little bit late. We went a little bit long for the rewatch, but it was a ton of fun. The We're not allowed to sing along rewatch of Once More with Feeling. If you'd ever like to join in, these discussions are the $5 and up tier on Patreon down below, and new faces are welcome all the time. Next week, in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about Billy. That'd be a strange on ramp, but I don't know you. Maybe you have particular things you want to get off your chest about Billy.
You know, it might be one of those episodes.
It might be one of those episodes. I don't know. You do you. Is what I'm saying. I suppose. um, Jack, am I forgetting anything?
I kind of zoned out for the last 30 seconds, so I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest, man. I'm
He's not
sorry.
the best color commentary in the league for nothing, folks. Also, because the question comes up quite a bit, and I get it, I have started working on Spiral. I am hoping to have it up on Friday, next Friday. But you know how these things go. And that's all I have. All right, let's start with Lauren F, and then we're going to go to Lauren S. Figuring it out as we go here. Lauren.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Oh, it's easily the best of the season 7 or episode 7 lineup, and top 3 for me. It's and it's just I think it was Lani who said that Xena Warrior Princess technically did it first.
Well,
And
we were speculating about. I'm not even
yeah,
sure if Xena
speculating.
was the first musical episode, but Buffy did it best.
Yeah, Buffy did it best. Like, so far it still hasn't been touched. Like, I remember the Supernatural musical episode, which was fine, but it was, the guys were watching, a high school production of their lives, and I mean, it was fine. It wasn't Once More with Feeling.
Well, the magic is to like the defining element of an episode 7 is like, here's the theme, here's the arc, here's where we're going,
Mhm.
let's go. And to
Yeah,
have
let's go. And
all of that
oh, this one for sure did
ennui,
that.
yeah, all of that Sturm and Drang tied to
Hmm.
a joyful beboppy musical is a magic trick
Hmm.
I've never quite seen before.
Yeah.
Dan
And
in the chat says, I think TPN could benefit from having an IT guy. Funny you should mention that, Dan. I am an IT guy. I don't know what to tell you.
I've got a theory. The machines are rising against us.
Yes, yeah, or something
But
to that
anyway,
effect.
and I didn't sing it.
No, it's
Um,
okay. We're free and clear.
but yeah, just I can't pick a favorite song. I love Rest in Peace. I love uh oh gosh, see, I'm so excited. I can't name like Tara's song. I love, and Amber
Under your
Benson.
spell.
God, yeah, Under Your Spell.
Yeah.
Amber Benson's voice is so beautiful, and
It's
and
definitely unique within the whole range of all of the songs. She has that sort of ringy high. I don't know music well enough to be able to describe it, but it definitely
yeah,
is unique
I wouldn't
in
know
the
either.
group.
I just know she sounds really really
And then
beautiful.
to harmonize her with Anthony Stewart Head during the
Yeah,
medley.
that. Yeah, I never really thought so much about like it, yeah, Giles leaving Buffy like that. Like, yeah, it and it kind of harkens back to the whole character assassination every time an actor wanted to leave the show, because when Seth Green wanted to leave, Oz cheated on Tara or Willow,
Yeah.
and Giles wants to leave, or Anthony Stewart Head wants to leave and go back to his family in England, and he abandons Buffy. So it's like,
Well, I think the question is like it's a writing challenge no matter what, right? Is you could kill them off, but then if these characters that you love and played by the actors that were all in good standing, at least I know Seth Green was and Anthony Stewart Head was with the team, like who you want to have back if they're willing to come back, and they do get Seth back later in that season. What do you do?
Yeah.
It's a tough question.
Yeah, I remember, Josh, your comment, Tara singing the low end of their duet. I remember that in the commentary being mentioned that he went higher than she did. But yeah, what an episode. And I mean, I love musicals anyway. And to combine one of my favorite TV shows of all time with a musical, it's just, it was really awesome. And I still can't remember how it was advertised on TV, like when it was when it was airing on a weekly basis. Like I don't remember, like, did we know going in that it was going to be a musical, or were we as surprised as all the characters were, like, what?
I don't know. Tom is the only one I know of who watched it live while it was airing. So I'd have to ask him. I think he's working today, unfortunately.
Oh, and he wanted to come. Oh, photobomb by my puppy.
The kitties always think I'm talking to them too.
But yeah, it's a great episode, and I'm still mad at Death for taking Hidden Battle, and
I think it's interesting too that it's one of the episodes where the bad guy wins. Free
like
clear.
He wins, and Susie says we didn't know. She watched it live too. So yeah, we didn't know. It was never previewed as a musical. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he goes out on a song, and yeah, like Buffy didn't slay him, and which just adds to my disappointment of him never showing up on Angel. He so could have.
Yeah, he and Lauren, I mean, it just feels like absolutely like a duet that needed to happen.
Yeah. And we didn't get
that idea had to have been tossed around.
It had to have just been a schedule thing, because like he was, I mean, earlier this year, Jack, he died. I want to say late January, early February, or who knows? I mean, this year, I know that much. I mean, as far as time, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, he was a huge Broadway star. So I'm sure it was a scheduling thing, and it just couldn't happen.
We're talking about Hinton Battle, which is an incredible name, of course. Not passing away this year, January 30th, 2024.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
Great choreography too. I know Michelle Trachtenberg didn't want to sing because good. But that's why she did like that little ballet thing when she woke up and the demons had kidnapped her. And what was with those demons though, real quick, like hints,
the marionettes,
sweeps, like yeah, the marionettes is like that was just weird. But
I'm sure it's an homage to something, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I did love when Spike brought the one into the magic box, and he's like, all right, sing. And there's like this big build up of music, and he just says, we got your sister.
Yeah. Salix in chat says it was the first Buffy episode I ever saw. Imagine that being your introduction.
Wow.
See, that's why I think that's terrible. I think that you like these pinnacle episodes. your introduction should be sort of the median. If you start at the peak, there's no place to go. You know.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
there were other great episodes, but to start with one of the best, like
that's rough. You want to start with
Yeah.
really good. I think you don't want to start with great. But
Yeah.
well,
yeah,
anyway,
that's all I got. But yeah, definitely one of my faves.
all right, Lauren, I appreciate it. Let me go over to Lauren.
Hey,
Can
can you hear me?
hello. Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. I'm just gonna be short today. I'm just gonna gush about how much I love this episode. I love musicals in general. I think I've loved them ever since I was a little kid. I love how sort of lighthearted and the sort of, I don't know, what is it? It's like musicals always have that sort of feel of everything being a bit extra life, extra, happy and everything. And I think this is such a good example of how you can do this on TV, because I think for a long time it was thought you can't do this, it's death, you can't do this on TV. And I think as much as Xena might have done it first, I think this was the first time it was done so well that it caused a lot more musicals to be on other shows.
Yeah, I've never watched.
I think it's called Dario.
I can't. The only thing that comes to mind now when I think of musicals, and I feel I don't like this. I'm not gonna get into the show, but is Glee, unfortunately. But I'm trying to remember other musical episodes.
Yeah, Glee's all cool. So this was original music as well, which I think is amazing. And one of the things I think is done so well in this episode is just there is actually a lot of character development. Like if you go through line by line of the songs, there's so much in there. And I love that, they have to tell the truth under the song. So
have to tell the truth.
And so there's so many nuggets in there, about Buffy saying, like, I just want to feel. And it's like explaining what's going on with her and Spike and everything. And, get the Anya and Xander and the dynamic leading up to their wedding and what's going on with Willow and Tara. I mean, we don't have the trio in this episode, but pretty much all the major arcs of the season are right here. I just love it. It would definitely be in my top 3 or 5 or something. I can't rank them all because I love too many episodes too much. But I reckon I've definitely watched this episode the most. I've probably watched it in excess of 30 times.
There's just something too that you get out of episodes that are so different. Like I tend to say The Gift is my favorite episode in the series. But I just watched this and I'm like, yeah, but that was real good. That is real good. But it's a different thing, right? Like there's something I'm pulling that's different from this one versus the other one. So it's really hard to say, and it's a fool's errand anyway. Like why just enjoy what they are, but
yeah. Well, sometimes when I think about episodes I've watched the most, sometimes it's just because they're light and they're funny. Like one of my favorite movies for a very long time was Shawshank Redemption, but I wouldn't watch it that much because it's so heavy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Like, I think I didn't know if I thought Billy was a good episode until I watched it a couple of times. But I mean, in reference to what you're talking about, like in terms of things that you take that are different from 2 great episodes, there's this, and then there's the Angel episode, Billy. Those are very different journeys. Billy is not something I ever look forward to revisiting, but this one, beforehand in the chat, beforehand when Lani, Josh, and I were all talking about the episode before we got started, I mean, just glee. Oh, God, that word will never be safe again. Excitement, raw excitement, like. And then just a smile plastered on my face the whole time, except during I was in heaven. Like, it's just a completely different kind of journey. And then The Gift just tears me apart. So I suppose it's so subjective.
Yeah. It's probably not up there as high for me just because I have those quibbles about the whole green energy dawn thing that I put it in the chat last time. So anyway, I don't want to get into it now.
There's a lot to quibble about season 5.
I love it. I love this episode and I can't wait to hear what everyone else has to say. And I'm sorry, I will have to run out early, but I will watch it all later. So I can't wait to hear
that's
what
okay. Let me go to, thank you for coming, Lauren. Let me go to Patrick. And then I'll go over to Jen.
Do you actually come back to me next round? I got it, I guess, so though. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. Can I go to Jen and then Patrick? Let's see if Jen, you're on mute if you're there. Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hello. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. How's it going?
It's going. It's going. Let's leave it at that.
Okay, fair enough. Well, tell me about the episode.
Okay, we can all gush till the cows come home. But we'll drop that. I have, when I'm not analyzing the episode, I love this episode. When I'm analyzing this episode, I hate this episode.
Okay.
It sets up a lot of things, but this episode makes me hate Giles.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Buffy is looking for Giles to be dad, like, because he's been dad to her through the relationship. So she just wants him to take over that with Dawn for her, because she's not ready to be mom to Dawn.
Right.
Like, she's not emotionally ready for it, and she's not mentally ready for it, because it happens so quickly. She's just not there.
Yeah, who would be prepared? Like, if you're get to have a parent the natural way, let alone to come into it through trauma and disaster in that way, who would be ready for that experience? Absolutely.
Exactly. So where this is like, the show does a lot to show Buffy's mental health, but they don't properly address it. They say, Buffy, go beat something up and deal with your emotions and then come back and be normal. That's not how mental health works. And the fact that Giles is, the next episode is just going to take off after finding out she's gone through trauma. It's character assassination to the highest degree. Like, I understand. It fits with Giles' character. Giles is this upper lip British guy. It fits with his character. The fact that he's going back to calling her Slayer. To disassociate from his relationship with Buffy. All this fits with his character. The problem is that they wonder why Buffy spirals out of control, because they keep there's an old saying, whoever's on top gets the blame. Buffy gets all of the blame, and she never has anyone to balance it out. It's why she works well with both Angel and Spike, because Angel and Spike both are able to take emotional burdens from her. Both they're able to protect themselves, protect her friends, and take some of that emotional baggage off of her. It's something that Riley wasn't able to do, because he's dealing with his own insecurities. It's why he didn't work, and both the vampires do work with her.
Well, I also think that to some degree that is one of the things the show is about, is the isolating effect of power and responsibility. And the attempt that season 7 is making is to talk about giving that power away and creating community with it. Whether or not you think season 7 is successful, probably isn't, but we'll get there. And
not with the way it ends.
No, I agree.
Technically, it just gives her a whole bunch of more responsibility, because now she's responsibility for all these kids that have just came into their powers.
Yeah.
So,
but I think I agree with you. I find the Giles turn frustrating, because he's a character that I admire so much. But I definitely would distinguish between a character I like making a decision that I don't, and character assassination. I think that Cordelia in season 4 is character assassination. Cordy wouldn't do that. And I think you made the argument here that, yeah, I could see Giles making this mistake. I don't like it. I really don't like it. He's a character that I kind of love and treasure, and a lot of us want Giles to be our dad. Not all of us, I know, but
not me. I love my dad. He's great.
Hey, I love my dad too, but Giles. That's all I'll say about that. But I hear you. Like, it's Buffy. I think the show is loaded with, no, don't do that. I mean, Xander has his problems, but in seeing red, that's a hard turn that a lot of people don't recover from, in terms of, I'm not going to get into the ways that Xander's writing was not clear on what Xander was doing, which I think is an acknowledged thing at this point. But for a lot of people, they can't forgive that characters can make a decision that you can never forgive them for. And wow, is Buffy loaded with characters making unforgivable decisions. You can almost pick one for any character.
For them.
Well, yeah, sure.
And then blaming Buffy for them. Every character that makes an unforgivable decision, including Angel, who I still is my OTP for a relationship, it blames Buffy for the fact that he broke up with her and then left her.
You're talking about in 5x5 and what was the second one?
Back when he comes back to Sunnytale, back when she goes to LA in the first season of Angel, like he does a lot of blaming her for his decision.
Thank you, Lauren. Sanctuary. Yeah. No, I agree. Buffy's the general, unfortunately, and gets a lot of unfair blame put on her. And even though season 6 is the trauma season where at least they're attempting to talk about trauma and mental health, there's a ton here that misses. I would agree with you completely. At least they're airing some of it out. Until this, we only had when she was bad, which is the only time you ever see Buffy touch on PTSD.
I will say this show is held up by a few things. It's time and age where mental health was just really starting to get addressed more mainstream.
Sure.
So you're also held up by the Watchers Council is, at least for recent generations, British and British, higher class British. So that's a British deal with things slightly different and those stereotypes that go with it.
Yeah.
So you've got and the council sees Slayers as a disposable item instead of being like, maybe in order to get our Slayers to last longer, we should pair them, especially Buffy by this point. She needed to get a counselor. She badly needed to get a counselor. Her and Giles and Dawn in different combinations all need family counseling.
Yeah, everyone in Sunnydale needs a therapist.
Yeah, badly so. And this,
It's
and it's the thing.
Sorry, Harris, was that you? What did you want to add?
They keep getting murdered. The one counselor she got given got his face gouged out.
That's true. Yeah. I was so excited when he was. Everybody's got demons, right? All right, a little on the nose, but I'm still happy she's talking to a therapist, and then he dies a scene or two later. But anyway, Jen, I'm sorry.
Oddly enough, Spike fills the role of counselor for Buffy more often than not.
Yeah. Well, and then I'm reminded of Conversations with Dead People, the therapy in the yard. It's like if there had been another season, maybe it would have been they would have gotten a chance to dive into it a little more if Sarah wasn't burned out and done with the show.
They were not going to dive into therapy. That's not where they were taking this show, even if they had moved it forward.
Probably not.
Let's be honest, because if they hadn't did it in 7 years, they weren't going to start doing it in season 8.
It also makes you wonder. I always wonder about writers' rooms. You know, you have whatever the age range was in the writers' rooms, and are these people going to therapy? Are these people working on themselves? You know, and then how do you write characters that are healthy if you yourself are sort of you write about the journey? And I think Marty specifically has talked about how much of herself is in Buffy season 6, including some of the dark, terrible parts of the season. But we'll get there.
But to move on from Buffy and Giles, let's look at Buffy and Spike. That's a lot. It's a lot, and I like what they do with it. I'm liking that there is a connection between them. There has been for quite a while, and I like where they're going. Yes, she's putting her trauma onto him, but part of he kind of wants it. So it's that thing where someone wants to fix the other person.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
damaged. Spike's attracted to damaged girls. Spike wants to fix someone or protect someone or to lean on, especially females, but he also doesn't mind being a sounding board. And he's really good at it. He's really good at it.
Yeah. It's so funny, the cliche of like, I just feel like I could fix her, right? Like in Spike's case, it's just like, I just feel like I could keep her broken, you know?
Well, his song lyrics literally are, she could die, it would solve my problems.
Yeah.
Let's go save the girl.
Yeah, talk about love as addiction, as opposed to anything else.
Like, but he's also the one that comes in and saves her where her friends are standing back in horror. It's Spike that saves her life. It's not Giles. It's not anyone else. It's Spike that comes in there and saves her life. Everyone else is just staring at their own personal horrors of the revelation. And the fact that the next episode, Giles decides to leave after finding all this out. Yeah, I really don't like where this is leading to.
It's interesting, too. Like, season 5 was about Spike processing, at least to whatever degree he can as a vampire, processing the relationship with Buffy to an honest point. I'm using that as loosely as possible. They process through the crush, standing in the steps in the gift. I know I'm a monster, but you treat me like a man, and that's something. And then Buffy, he's the only one that she's honest with during this season. So him being the one who rushes to her and saves her, I think is grounded in the writing, and everyone else she's been, but through, I'm not assigning blame here, just sort of describing, she has felt the need to mask the suffering that she's actually dealing with, and she just hasn't with him. So he's the one who's not in shock in that scene. You know,
that's the lead up to this. That's been going in the background. First thing Buffy does is come back. Hey, we've been living in your house and taking care of your kid. And the fact that I have not been for a while, just because of finances on these streams. Yeah. So I'm behind. But you've got Giles, who's already taken off and leaves Dawn with Willow. Like, where on earth is Giles taking off when, again, he's the grown-up figure in that situation, and not taking Dawn at least with him?
Well, I think that would be Hank is the one who that question should be pointed towards.
Hank at this point, and the fact that no one contacts Hank is a different situation altogether.
Sure, exactly.
But the fact is, no one's going to contact Hank about Dawn, so why isn't Giles, when he decides to take off to England, bringing Dawn with him?
I don't know. Maybe he's never actually accepted that he's the father. He is clearly, but maybe he has not accepted that role completely, or the stiff upper lip thing. I don't know, but it's tough. Again, I don't feel like it breaks character. It's just so hard to watch characters you love making bad decisions. Character. Yeah.
I'm not saying it breaks character. I'm pointing out that, like, literally the day after she comes back, hey, your mom paid for insurance, covered a bunch of stuff, and now you've got to figure out how to pay for all this. And it's like, she hasn't had time to process. No wonder she runs off to Angel right away, because she doesn't have time to process. She's never really given time to just relax, give her 5 minutes to breathe. Yeah. Doesn't really ever get that, because by the time she's moving from one crisis, one world-ending event to a next, and she hasn't found her way. Like, these are discussions like, okay, maybe you need to start going back to school. I will help you with some conversations. And why on earth is Willow living at her house for free?
That I agree with. Especially when Willow's mom supposedly lives in town.
Yeah. Oh, and she has a dorm room still at the college.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on. Like, this episode's a good Joss Whedon, say what they like about a man, but he wrote a musical that didn't end in a happy ending. It broke. It's told troops, and it wasn't wrapped up with a pretty bow at the end, and it broke out everyone's trauma, everyone's depression, and it's just going to, for a lot of these characters, this is the beginning of the spiral.
And even the traditionally happy ending kiss with the curtain call and everything is just a dark, weird moment.
Where
that
it's
you
going to go next?
Yeah.
Like, as I said, it literally leaves. She's walking out. Spike follows her. He's saying, "Go deal with your happy moment," and she kisses him. Yeah, the writing's on the wall with that situation.
Yeah.
Like, don't want to deal with my happy moment. I'm going to just feel something, anything at this moment. Like, it's literally what her song's been singing. She just wants to bloody well feel.
Well, Jen, I do need to move on. Is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
I think the only thing I don't like about it is I'm honestly not a fan of the Xander and Anya. Yeah, there's so much stuff going on that I could have cut them from this episode.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a rare opinion.
Sorry, there's so many other things going on with this episode that you've got the Buffy, you've got the Buffy Giles, you've got the Buffy you've got the Tara Willow. The Tara Willow is reflected in the Giles and Buffy situation. Sure. We've got a hint of Dawn, but you need that to push things forward. I don't even mind the Xander's being the one to do the thing, except he just doesn't admit it till the end. But I don't necessarily need so much time spent with Xander and Anya. Like, we waste like 2 minutes of them walking down the street where we see other people singing, and the dancers in the background that are dancing at the brooms are the same ones that are in the puppet masks.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think I knew that, but I didn't remember that.
But like, you're seeing all this other stuff going so they can move through all these like musical genres in the background, but you're wasting time. There's so much more there that I didn't need them. I could have did, like, when we eventually do a replay, a prize, Anya does another song later on, I could have done that song in a flashback in another episode.
I forgot about the song in that episode. That's a highlight of 7. All right, well, it's good to see you back. Let me go over to Patrick, and then we'll go to Jack. Patrick.
Hello.
By the way, I just want to point out, Dan in the chat says Spike is the only one that could have stopped her. Buffy would have steamrolled over anyone else. I think that's an interesting read, especially if she's in full like Slayer dance mode enough to burn herself up. Yeah. Sorry, Patrick. Go ahead.
So I actually watched the season 5 through 7 episode 7s. Just because I came into some unexpected time. It's probably my second favorite of those 3 episodes, but it's still, I would say, probably top 5 in the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you think about episode 7, Fool for Love is so good.
Yeah, I would have to say that's my pick. That's an episode you can point to definitively and say that actually has better cinematography and directing than Once More with Feeling.
Well, I think, Once More with Feeling has visual highlights and visual flares, but
Walk Through the Fire, yeah.
Yeah, Walk Through the Fire is gorgeous, but the edits where Spike is talking to Buffy and swinging the thing around himself, and it cuts to him in the 70s, like the matched action cuts, it's so good. Throughout that episode. The funny thing is, like, it's so weird. You talk about my favorite episode 7, it's probably Fool for Love. But you talk about which episode is more my favorite, probably Once More with Feeling. It's really weird. Like, there are different subjective measures, even personally, to interpret the episodes.
Well, so I'm somebody actually who's disinclined to like it subjectively, I would say, because I probably have about a polar different music taste from Joss Whedon, as you could imagine. First off, second off, I don't like musicals like as a rule.
Sure.
Like it's just I think a thing of just like being so rhythmically geared with dancing and expression in that way. It's just a totally different form of dancing than like this sort of like expressive dancing you get in musicals. But what's on display here is well good enough for me to get absolutely sucked in.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not very like I grew up watching I was thinking about this because I am not a big musical lover. I've seen Sound of Music a bunch of times. It was my sister's favorites. I've seen My Fair Lady. I've seen Pirates of Penzance, which was not my favorite, although I Am a Very Model of a British Major General is amazing. I think
love
this is my favorite musical.
The Singing Detective, the BBC show. I think it was BBC, but it was an 80s British show that had it was Michael Caine as like a singing doctor.
West Side Story. Yeah, Dan, thank you.
That one I love. That would kind of deconstructed the whole tonal package and just affective package we get in a lot of musicals. Also, Singing in the Rain obviously is a classic. But those are really the only ones I can think of off the top of my head other than this episode I really love.
I can't name another song in Singing in the Rain other than Singing in the Rain. Yes, I know they exist, but I'm just saying, I think I've seen that twice. And yeah, this is just for me. I mean, of course, as someone who's not a big musical lover, this for me is just kind of perfect and in the wheelhouse.
It's got to earn its keep in a way. It almost makes it sweeter. Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as like, the thing that I was really puzzling over when I was thinking about the episode was the how Buffy and Willow differentiate themselves, and that like they're both in a really dangerous place spiritually this season, but in very different ways. And so like since Buffy is like spiritually dead and like disconnected from her calling and from the relationships around her and from like a path forward, like she is singing and dancing to excess because like those are like forms of like unconscious expression. And like even like an unconscious is just kind of a machine for operating an animal that like all animals have. So even if she's not pointing it anywhere, it's still going to like burst out of her.
Well, it's almost like dancing as self-harm for the purposes
that's
of
the
just
specific way it was narrowed in on. Yeah, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah. And the addiction, Willow's addiction is just mirrored by the relationship with Spike. Like,
right, but you're using the language of like harm and addiction because like that, when you're doing those things, you're like filling a void. It's like you're not connecting your drives to like your, values or
Josh
coherent way of going forward.
Buffy almost burning up is straight up suicide coded. And the other thing that's interesting too is I love her drawing the dark place with the light at the end of the tunnel in the beginning of the episode. She's just drawing blackness and a point of light in the distance, which I think is, speaks to the whole thing.
Certainly does. And so like fire, I guess, as this ties into the kind of like the motif of fire, which like we get weaved throughout Buffy and Angel as ways of coding release, especially or catharsis, especially from like a dark experience or just from being a demon, literally. And so it's like, I guess Buffy walking through the fire rather than like, letting herself be burned away by it in a way is like affirming, like there are still parts of, her life and her personality and her relationships and so forth that like she's wanting to work for. But in a way, it's also like, she's not really willing totally to face 100% like the depths that she's experiening after being cast back into the dimension.
Well, I mean, going through the motions,
it's ambiguous.
Right? Yeah, like not feeling anything, but just going through it. I love her bored singing. the lyrics on the face of it of what can't we face if we're together. But Giles looks at her and realizes something's off. And Sarah does such a wonderful job of, hey, I died twice. Like
She wouldn't say
this
what
all
she
means
sang about.
nothing. Yeah.
She just said, I don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah. But then everyone joins in, and Giles goes, "Oh, we're fine. Everything's fine, as always." As when has it ever been fine in Sunnydale? Jesus. But anyway.
Yeah, you would think Giles would have learned by now.
Right.
But so that's like a fire is like, it's like a release of heat and light and radiation. So that's like an exothermic action. Like Buffy's just spilling out of whatever, even though she's like explicitly kind of consciously being very guarded or just like totally not there at all. Like unconsciously, she's still like burning extremely hot.
Mm-hmm.
But like Willow, it's almost like the opposite effect is going on. It's like on the surface, she's like frantic almost. And like, even just like brazen in how she doesn't clean up after herself with the spell. And then the next episode, she doesn't do it again. It's just like disconnect from just like her immediate reality. And just projecting her own just like power and like grandiosity onto the situation. And
well,
so
the one thing I'm writing about Buffy season 5 too, and the thing I was thinking about is like Buffy's that whole season is the separation between Buffy and Dawn. Buffy's childhood optimism, innocence, which we hope to bring optimism with us to adulthood, versus call and response of Slayer and responsibility. And Glory's supposed to be Slayer concentrate, completely separated, and Ben is the Dawn of the season. But I was just thinking about with Buffy reminds me a little bit of Glory in this, like sad pants Glory. She's just the power. She's just sort of walking through the whole thing. I mean, it's a different examination of. They're doing a completely different examination in this one. It's, but it's sort of what to just be the power and to feel nothing, to have none of that center. I think is kind of what the warning was in season 5.
Well, they're asocial. Their power disconnects them from everyone around them.
Yeah.
Except for the select few that they can have that they think can have some insight into the situation. But they're still burning very deeply psychologically at the same time.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, depression, the total shutdown of your emotions occurs for a reason, It's sort of shock to physical trauma is like a similar is the physical parallel, right? But the trauma is still there, and that's kind of the immolation that almost occurs in that particular scene. It's really fascinating.
Well, it's kind of like one of the Goldilocks problems, I think, that like Buffy and Angel as series like are both really interested in, and like self-overcoming and like making yourself a better person and learning how to cope better with life and so forth. Like there's an element you have to have of setting fire to your trauma and like letting things go, but you have to do that in a way that you're still able to learn from your experiences and not just suppress them.
That's for me, when I was younger, I was very addicted to philosophy. And it wasn't until later
that I realized, what you mean.
It wasn't until later that I realized, like, oh, philosophy and psychology need to be paired. Like the one balances the other. They are intertwined. That's kind of what the video series has always been about. Is sort of the philosophy of it and the psychology of it. Because the thing that needs to occur with trauma is to process it.
And there's no data in philosophy. There's just structure.
Exactly. So it's the rules instead of the exploration. You know, it's the truth. And psychology is more about, it's the objective truth versus the subjective truth of psychology. You know, I know that's a flawed explanation of it, but like the two of them, I think, balance each other out in a fascinating way. But there is no one without, like, I think to find healthy is a journey, not a destination. But like the journey, I think, is the balance of those two together. And talking about things not being processed, Buffy not processing her trauma, and Willow using magic to cope with hers, childhood or otherwise. You know, her sense of self, her sense of loneliness, and all of that. But neither are in touch with the trauma, and that's the mirror. And I think that's what's so interesting about this. Like the examination of it, I think Jen is right that this season doesn't portray a healthy model of how to deal with any of these things, but it at least is an examination of them. And I think that at the time was a step up in the discussion of these kinds of things. I think that at the time it was really interesting, and it still is now.
I guess that's why I find it like as having integrity and like courage in that it's not parachuting in a working model
right
onto these characters, because you would have to go back to season 1 to really have that stick, not take us out of the characters themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really down on Giles, so I guess I see all of this stuff as really in character on him, if I'll be honest.
Well, Josh points out the Giles was never. I think it was Josh said in Mark Field's book. Mark says that Giles was never a great parent. It was never intended to be a parent. Never thought of himself as a parent to anyone but Buffy. I think Giles is actively harmful to Xander at times, who desperately needs a healthy male role model. And you know, Willow,
who needs somebody who has wisdom about power and magic.
Yeah. Boy, could he have helped? But here we are. Well, I do need to move on, Patrick. Is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
I think that's it. Yeah, it's really zeroed in on those things.
All right, sounds good.
Peace.
Let me go over to Jack, and then we'll go to Harris.
Hi, Ian.
Hi, Jack.
Fancy seeing you here, huh?
I know, right? Who'd have thunk it?
Right, exactly. Once more.
By the way, one thing I was thinking of when I was looking at that, I've written about this in the channel someplace, but one thing I was thinking about in Buffy drawing the tunnel of darkness, I remember, like, I've talked ad nauseum about, I watched the show during a period of one of the worst depressions I've ever had to deal with. There was a point when I distinctly remember having that experience of, I could get up, but why? You know, it was just sort of waking up in the morning and having not being able to think of not being able to think of the reason to get up. And for a little while, the show during that period of my life was the reason, you know, to get up and to see what was going to happen to these characters, to feel seen. To feel so emotionally isolated. But the analogy I came up with is like when you're going through darkness, because I felt silly. There was a part of me that felt like, really, like this show, this quaint little show.
I've been there too. It's carried me through a lot myself. So, yeah.
But like when you're going through darkness, any light is light, right?
Yeah. Annie poured in a storm, I think is the expression. Yeah.
But I just think this is the season where I saw myself. And Buffy drawing that image of the tunnel and the light, to me, is very apropos of how I was feeling watching the show.
it's funny because I've never even glanced down at that picture. Like I didn't like it wasn't even clear in my mind that she was drawing something until you pointed it out. I've never noticed that at all.
Yeah,
So
that picture. If someone
it's
said
really
draw
cool.
depression,
Yeah. I
and they
actually
showed
want
you
to
that picture,
I actually want to go back and have a proper look at it because when you mentioned it, I didn't really get a proper look before it cut away. So
well, you know
yeah.
what? It's a square or rectangular shape that she's
Mhm.
drawing with blackness all around. I think it's her grave. I think
Mm.
she's
Oh, okay.
drawing the light at the end of her grave that she had to crawl out of.
Mhm.
But
Wow.
either way, like there's just so many different ways to read it. It really is affecting, and
Mm.
it's so stark against that joyful major key music.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, like musicals, just like yourself and Patrick, I don't really like musicals at all. Like
Yeah,
I at all. I think, but I love this because I think like it's a masterpiece, and I think part of the reason why I don't like musicals is because I really struggle to attach myself to a narrative when every scene is a song and dance because that's not. I know it's still telling a story and there's meaning and emotion and all that, but it's not. I can't relate to it because I don't walk into a room and burst into song. Well, I do sometimes, but not.
yes, you
It's
do.
I mean I do a lot.
Yeah.
Okay,
Jack,
I'll
I need
take
you to
that.
stop
Yeah.
singing. I need you to get the stream going.
So many times, so many times. But it's typically not an everyday thing unless you're me, clearly. Um,
Yeah,
but I think what helps me with this episode is that I've spent 6.5 seasons with these characters. I know who they are, I know what they've gone through, I know what they are currently going through. So the music means something to me. Yeah. And in terms of my musical taste, like that I'm basically a metalhead, but I'm an eclectic metalhead. Like I love metal, but one of my favorite musicians of all time is an English singer-songwriter, Lewis Capaldi. Incredible. Love the guy. So it's not that the music isn't necessarily something I wouldn't listen to, but it's a little different from my typical
sure,
jam.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you and I have
but
had late night YouTube sessions crying over some Adele together. Like, that's
and
something we do.
he's
Deal with
also
it.
not exaggerating or being hyperbolic. That has
No.
literally happened. Um, yeah, so yeah, I just what can I say about this episode, man? It's so good. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Rest in Peace is my favorite song because it's just amazing.
It's
And
definitely the most rocky of the bunch,
yeah, so
which,
of course that's gonna be
yeah,
my cup of tea. But it's also I don't want to get too personal, but I've been in the situation that Spike's been in. Like,
sure. Well,
been into
unrequited
some,
love.
yeah, and been
Yeah.
into someone who kind of uses you for a bit of a, like, I don't know, emotional kicking tree into,
So have I.
yeah, yeah. And so, um, and that's also a big part of why I relate to Spike in general.
Hmm.
And maybe I'll talk more about that as we get more into the Spike stuff, but we'll see. Yeah, so it really, God, that song hits me like a ton of bricks. But I really wish too that I could remember, like I've seen this show so many times now, and so many times that I cannot remember my first reaction to this episode. And I wish I could. I really wish I could.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't either. I don't think the first time through, I don't think it got me until, because there's a number of reveals. I mean, that's one of Josh's specialties, is like,
Mm,
we've been complaining a little bit in the Angel rewatches about the bait and switch, and
mm,
I think a bait and switch
yeah.
is often intended to be a reveal.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but in this, the reveal that the song of "I'm Under Your Spell" is also about the brainwash is a reveal. Um, there are a couple of different ones that occur during the course of it that are just so that are built on surprise, and that's the whole thing. Is like, I was surprised in watching the Avengers how many different things, how many tropes were subverted in such an incredible and humorous and thoughtful way. And that's full on display here. And then once you've seen it, you've seen it. And that's the problem with the bait and switch, is once you've seen the bait and switch, it doesn't matter anymore. But this is still rich with, like, even once the surprises are... there's an argument that says that spoilers shouldn't matter, because
I don't agree with that, though.
No, I know. I don't want to get into that debate, but I think that this episode is sort of an argument, is sort of representative of that argument, because once the surprises are revealed, there's still joy. It's still rich. It's still, if you knew the plot points of this episode, it doesn't ruin it. There's something lost in all cases, and I think that's the other argument. But something that is built on the surprise, and once you know the surprise, then there's nothing else. I think is sort of the counterpoint.
The only initial reaction I remember is the Angela stuff in season 2. Season 2,
Sure.
it's season 2. And that blew my freaking mind as like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old boy. Like, oh my god, he's the bad guy. Oh my god. But I want to say I don't think I saw Once More with Feeling until, about 10 years ago now, when I acquired the whole series and watched it from start to finish. I don't think I'd seen it. But actually no, I definitely didn't see it, because before I did a full watch through, I thought The Gift was the end of the show. Like I literally thought that's how it ended. So yeah,
it is an ending. Some of the fandom seems to argue that that's the ideal ending of the show.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And if that was the ending, I wouldn't really be mad. Although, I mean, season 6 is my favorite season, but still, I wouldn't be mad if
it's the conclusion of the original premise. Adolescence is over. So I get that there's a sense of closure to that episode. But I mean, that makes season 6 to me all the more perfect, because there are no happy endings, right? Like, there's always another day, like, until there isn't. But life goes on. And I think that that's an interesting premise to explore. Monotony, boredom is tough to write about. I think it's, because the natural structure of like rising action, climax, falling action. Angel season 2 is another example of that. The elevator down to hell opening up, and this is Earth. Like to let that be an anticlimax, I think is very unusual in storytelling.
And it's such a fundamental part of life, the monotony and all of that stuff, that I think it's important that we deal with it and we reconcile with it, because it's something that you cannot escape, and it's an important part of life, in the sense that, like, it's important that we deal with it, essentially, is what I'm trying to
if you're gonna do Sisyphus, like, this season is the rock rolled back down the hill, like and Sisyphus sits and takes a break, looks out before going and getting the rock.
And that's why they say, like, life is the villain in this season, which is absolutely spot on. And lastly, I just want to say about the Giles stuff. I completely agree that his whole reasoning is stupid and feels really out of character for him. And I really dislike the fact that he sends Buffy away to
that's so dumb.
Sweet by herself. That is so out of character. Giles wouldn't do that. And also,
it's not even good watcherness.
No, and the show makes it very clear that the reason why she has survived so long is because of her friends and her connections to the world, her ties to the world. That is,
well, if he's reverting to his watcherness, then it makes sense. Like, the Watchers send them alone, right? So if that's his way of sort of coping with his fear that he's doing damage instead of being a good parent, I still think it's terrible.
It's on
a whim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sort of head canon it a little bit, but it's still stupid.
Yeah,
It's still
yeah.
just But I get that they needed a reason to write him out of the show, but I don't know, send him to a hell dimension for a couple of months. I don't know. Like they could have done something so much better, I think. But yeah, I don't know. This episode is amazing. I wouldn't put it in my top 3, but definitely top 10 somewhere, pretty
Sure.
close to the top. It's just really, really good. It makes me feel things. I love the cinematography and the color saturation. Like every scene has this like warmth to it that I really love. It's just a masterpiece. It's great. I love it.
I love it. All right, before I go over to Harris, I need to take a 5-minute break to walk amongst yourselves. I will be right back with you.
Jack, you got a
amongst
question in the
yourselves?
chat about the Brady Bunch
Oh.
background?
Where is it? Question. I gotta ask. What's with the do you know what? I saw it and I liked it and I thought it was funny. That's the only reason. There's no other. I just like it. It's funny and really dumb.
And you've
It's the
always
only reason
wanted to
you
be
need.
Alice.
Yes, I've
You've
always
always wanted to be Alice the
Alice.
maid.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think I look the part, right?
You do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks.
You're like
appreciate it.
an avatar of Ann B. Davis. Yeah.
I know, like spitting image, right?
Seriously.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No higher praise.
Yeah,
I
I think I saw the background on a video of a Zoom meeting, and I'm like, I gotta find that. That is amazing. So I found it, and here it is.
Also, can we take a minute and appreciate that Harris looks like he's about to drop a sick album?
Yeah, like you're
He
looking
does.
good, man. You're looking
He does.
great.
Harris,
well-
what you were saying this was for cosplay. What are you cosplaying, man?
Yeah.
I was cosplaying today as David Tennant's first Doctor, and then I'm cosplaying. Well, I say today, it's past midnight, so it was yesterday. I'm cosplaying the second day as Phoenix Wright from the Ace Attorney series because, helpfully, it's the exact same suit except one has a wig.
Nice.
So yeah, that's tomorrow's.
Is
Excellent.
that also why the beard is gone?
Yeah,
Okay.
I commit to it. So
Yeah, like wow.
I shave for my cosplays.
I sometimes have nightmares about shaving my beard on my head. Like I'm weirdly attached to what's going on here.
I
Also
had a
funny-
beard cutting nightmare actually, like 2 weeks ago. That I was an Amish dude, and there was a huge anti-Amish insurgency. I was living in Eastern Ohio, like not far from where I actually live, and yeah, my beard got cut by just some dude with like garden shears. It was fucking fucked.
What the nightmare? Wow.
And hey, Tom, glad you made it.
Hey.
Yeah.
Good
to see you.
Just got home from work.
Okay.
How was work?
It was good.
Yeah, we're really glad you made it because we were talking. We were wondering where you were. So yeah. It's good to
Well,
have
you mentioned the last time, but it's good to see you. Let's go to Harris, and then I'm going to go to Josh, and we'll wrap up with Tom. I think, right? Did I miss anyone? I think we're good.
Lady Eternal hasn't.
Oh,
gone
I'm
yet
sorry.
either.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's okay.
Harris-
I haven't been around for a while.
I apologize.
That's okay. You'll fit me in. It'll be fine.
We'll get her done. Hello, sir. How you doing?
Hello. It's very it's funny that it was mentioned during the break that it looks like I'm about to drop an album because I know we couldn't do a sing along earlier. But I do love musicals, and I threw my notes into a generator and I rewrote some of the lines. And I can't sing, just to warn you, but I can passably sing.
Sure.
So to start things off before I dig deeper into my thoughts, hey everyone, I'm back in sight. Can't join other hangouts, try as I might, but once more with feeling I couldn't miss. Even at Comic-Con, I had to remiss. A testament true, this episode shines, inspiring scrubs and Star Trek designs. Meta and musical, self-aware, this fan's delight beyond compare. It's more than a gimmick, it's crucial and real, driving the plot with emotional zeal. For newcomers, it's tough to explore. You need the backstory to appreciate more. Buffy's the pinnacle, setting the bar. Other shows follow, but none are on par. Steered conventions of blocking so well done. Screen direction translates a masterful run. From Rest in Peace to Wish I Could Stay, the direction's unique, they lead the way. A fan I am, inspired so deep by Once More Feeling, memories I'll keep. Buffy's magic, musical guys, a fan's joy, a true surprise.
Oh,
Love it. Love it. Sung to the tune of Parents Just Don't Understand, at least in my head. Terrific. We were going to make that a homework assignment, but I think you're the only one that did the homework. Awesome.
And I haven't even been here for weeks. That's I feel like that should be Star People Stars at this point. I've missed a whole bunch of hangouts, so.
Well, you told if I remember correctly, you watched Firefly first, and then at the time we're going through Buffy or Angel for the first time, or I forgot your. Tell me again.
I mean, I had watched Firefly. Firefly was my first Whedon verse show, but before I joined Hangouts, I have seen everything.
Okay.
Before.
Okay. Yeah.
This will be my first time second watching Buffy, whereas I've seen Firefly a few times now.
Well, give me your. I should have been asking this all along. 3 favorite musicals.
Wicked's my favorite musical.
Not necessarily episodes, whatever you want. But anyway, say it again.
Wicked is my favorite musical.
Okay.
I've seen it on stage 3 times. Possibly might see it 4th this year. Little Shop of Horrors is my second. I have a soft spot for Little Shop of Horrors because we did it at school and I got to puppeteer Aubrey, but the tiny Aubrey.
I forgot about Little Shop of Horrors. Okay, there's a musical I like.
Little Shop of Horrors is so good.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It was a fun experience because there was no way for me. So when I puppeteered the smallest Aubrey, it's underneath one of the shop front counters, but there wasn't a way in our student set design for me to exit the stage. So even though that's one musical number where the smallest Aubrey is used, I had to spend the entire of the first act behind basically lying on my floor behind the set design, watching the musical through a small little hole that happened to be in the set design. And I think it's probably why I have such a bad back now, because that was not a healthy place for a 12-year-old to be sitting for 2 hours every day for a few months or a month or so. And my third favorite musical. I never get asked for a third.
Well, in no particular order, yeah.
I mean, so far it has been in particular order. I love Wicked so much, but what's my third favorite musical? I might have to come back to you on that.
Oh yeah, okay. I mean, I like it because as someone who is not musically inclined, and to be reminded of Little Shop is incredible.
It is.
Yeah. So back to the episode.
Yeah, I mean, like I kind of alluded to, I think it's really good that it's not just a gimmick episode. I mean, not that you really get those in Buffy. They tend to do it well, despite the whole it being quite postmodern and quite self-referential. But the fact that it's a pivotal kind of episode is.
It's interesting. Like the only episode I would describe as gimmicky, and I'm not sure the term is even fair, is Hush. I think the whole the silence demons as a way of like even that I think is well structured and well set up, but it's not emotionally rich in the way that any of the other artistic departures are. Good Lord, especially this one. So that it is so rich with emotional hits is just incredible.
Yeah, I'm a massive sucker for like any kind of thing which is self-referential. And like rips apart the tropes that it uses, and this does that as well. But in a very it rips it apart, but also homages it. Like it references the whole idea of it plays around with the idea that musicals are inherently meant to be about emotions, and it's such a core part of this that when I won't talk too much in it in case no one's seen it yet, but when Strange New Worlds does its musical episode, it is I think clear to anyone who's watched it, very clearly taking it. I mean, the writers have actually confirmed they pretty much rewatched this episode before they wrote that, and it makes both explicit and thematic references to how this episode does it in the fact.
Wait, you're talking about Star Trek: Strange New Worlds has a musical episode?
You don't know?
Nobody told me that.
Joshua, what have you been doing for the last few months? How have you not let him go away with this? Like,
I'm so sorry. That's my responsibility. It's my fault
I
entirely.
stepped away from the hangout for a few months, and this clearly I'm the glue here.
There were actual news articles, like news magazine articles, when the episode came out, where they said they were using Once More with Feeling as a pattern.
I've been staying off social media successfully for the last year. I was not aware of that. All right.
Oh, I need to go find you these articles, Ian. I need to drop these in the Discord. You need to. Oh my Lantry, Joshua, what are we doing with this?
We'll have to rectify it.
All right. Well, just blew my mind. But anyway, go ahead.
I do also think, though, that, and I think you mentioned this earlier in the hangout, that the fact that this episode is such a pivotal part of the story makes it not a great entry. Like, I mean, like you said, so the normal, and I hate this happens. It happens in Doctor Who a lot. People are always like, "Oh, if you've never watched Doctor Who before, watch Blink." And I'm like, no, don't watch Blink, because Blink is an excellent piece of TV, but it is easily just that without being Doctor Who. Like, Blink could be any other horror / sci-fi.
It could be any in the show, yeah.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean detract from the fact that it's a good Doctor Who episode, but it's not a codifying example of Doctor Who. There are so many other better entry points to Doctor Who, and I think that's the same for Once More with Feeling. And you'd lose a lot, because if you don't understand the emotional arc of the characters, I'm not sure what you're getting out of this episode. So every time people are like,
just basically, breaking the mold is meaningless if you don't know the mold. You know, like if you're not familiar with what the mold is of, then the effect of the mold being broken is kind of irrelevant. It's like you said, it could just be an episode of anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that.
Even with, I think, musicals that aren't adapted from stage, like obviously like this episode is, and other kind of written for screen musicals, I do think they all kind of inherently adapt from musical conventions, and so I think another way to like judge the success of a musical on screen is how well, because obviously you can't, unless it's like deliberately on stage, you can't convey all the different like blocking and set designs that you do have in a musical to screen, so you've got to translate that. And I think some do it well, some do it, I think the ones which just do it where it looks like a stage play aren't doing it well. What did I watch recently that felt very stage play? Oh, what was it?
We watched Pirates of Penzance last year, and that was literally looked like it had been transported, shot before they played it to a Broadway show that night.
Yeah, there was something I watched recently that I remember complaining about. Maybe it's not come out yet, maybe it was a trailer I was reacting to, but something which, like, it looked like it was shot on a stage, but it wasn't an adaptation. It wasn't a video reproduction of a play. It was direct to screen, and I was like, I don't think this really works, because I think you have to embrace the fact that it's on screen. And I think this episode does that well, because it plays around with it. Again, it's the whole benefit of it being a self-referential show. It plays around with the direction and the mise-en-scène and the like the ways it plays with the camera, and it changes style based on what doing. Like I think I'll Never Tell is the best example of that, because that could very much be its own thing separate from the rest of the episode, because it's shot differently. I'm pretty certain they've made the colors pop a bit more with the set design or in post to reflect the fact that it's more.
Yeah, it's sort of fitting that the stagiest of all of the performances is the last one, because when they're at the Bronze and it's on stage and it's the demon that is responsible for all of this, so it's fitting that he would be the battle would take place on a stage. I think, like, I've never really thought about that as the destination of this particular storytelling, but man, is it fitting. But yeah, the rest of the time I think you kind of want to justify the particular medium that you're doing this within. And one of the ones I actually really like the tracking shot along the street where Marty, the one where Marty comes in for a second, complaining about the ticket, and then it comes back to the dialogue. You know, to see the layers of how this is affecting the world around them, and everyone is doing their own number. Everyone is stuck in their own song. I think takes advantage of what you described, which is using the power of the particular medium that this musical is taking place in.
Maybe it was a Wicked trailer that I was reacting to, where I felt that based on the trailer so far, that looks like they've just embraced more of the stage rather than the screen element of it, which would make sense. I'm trying to not have too much of a pre-opinion on a Wicked musical film, because obviously I'm a big fan of the stage musical, so I don't want to go into the film prejudice. So my main kind of amusement is everyone who's on Twitter who's having a massive discourse about a Wicked trailer. If you find a Wicked, just look at every time a Wicked trailer drops, just go on Twitter, because the amount of discord over stuff is hilarious at this point. But yeah, no, I think that's the thoughts I have so far.
All right, bud. Well, it's good to see you. I'm glad you made it to one. Let me go to Lady Eternal, then Josh, then Tom. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I found the article where one of the co-runners from Strange New Worlds actually said that Once More with Feeling was the bar for that they wanted to hit for making the musical episode. And I dropped it both in the chat and in the Discord.
It's so funny. The Next Generation is one of my favorite shows of all time. I say Next Generation, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Buffy, and The Good Place. Top. Don't ask me to pick an order of those. But I've been so lukewarm on Star Trek since the movies, and this is the most motivation I've had to watch any of the new Star Trek stuff. Is this and knowing. So I may dive into Strange New World soon. But anyway, so I appreciate Harris, lady. Thank you for bringing it up.
Absolutely. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This episode is the bar that I judge musical episodes of television shows by. Sure. Because it's one of the first ones I've ever seen that was done at all. It was done exceptionally well, just from a structural standpoint of a musical. And I've been watching musicals ever since I was a little kid. My favorite ones, I have to give it to Phantom of the Opera. I grew up on that. I grew up on the stage recording of that. Rent came out when I was in my freshman year of college, and it just immediately stole my heart. We used to walk around singing Seasons of Love on the quads just at random, because it was just so, like, it captured everybody's imagination. And that one's still very dear. And I have a very nerdy attachment to The Music Man. It's a very weird free association to it. But I love The Music Man by itself, but then Robert Preston, who not only starred in the stage version of it, but the movie version of it. When there was a movie that came out in the 80s called The Last Starfighter.
Oh yeah.
Where it was you remember that?
Oh yeah, of course.
The showrunners actually wrote the role of Centauri from that movie, specifically modeling him on Harold Hill. And then then they sought to get their dream casting for that was to get Robert Preston, and he said yes. So
I remember. That's funny. Like, you talk Last Starfighter. Suddenly, this shifts into my wheelhouse, and I know Centauri. I didn't know who that actor was, except that I'd seen him in the '80s around all over the place. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that was in addition to that just being such a wonderful movie on its own, that tie into something that was also another near and dear movie from my childhood. I can't it retains its place in my top 3 for that reason.
Yeah.
But this episode of Buffy, it's so hard to criticize it when you're watching it.
Sure.
Because when you're watching it and you're hearing Sarah and James and Anthony Head and Amber Benson and all of the singing that they're doing, like, you can hear where Sarah's voice is tested because she's not formally singing trained, especially when she hits those notes in the end when she's singing that she was pulled out of heaven. You can hear her voice start to creak on it,
which I think fits the line pretty well. Yeah.
It does. It's an emotional moment, and she fought hard to keep it because Joss actually at one point offered to bring somebody in to dub her voice for her singing lines. And she was like, "Are you kidding? You're going to put somebody else doing my big emotional moment for the season?" No. But so it sweeps you up and it sweeps you away into it, and it's especially towards the end of it, Amber's song is so cheeky with her and Willow in the bedroom, and all of the metaphors that are so blatant.
Yeah. Well,
and
once I think once they make that edit in the middle of the word complete, I can we call it a metaphor anymore? It's so
I really don't think so. I really don't think so. I think that at that point it's just a double entendre.
Dr. Horrible sing along blog. That's another one I really enjoy.
Yes. I too kind of wish that Xander and Anya's stuff had been a little more limited, just because on the initial watch, it's kind of, they're fighting with each other in the song. They're picking at each other in the song. And it's typical for their relationship. So at the first time I watched it, which was when it aired live, I was like, okay, yeah, this is them and this is cute. But the more times you watch the episode, the more times it just kind of grates on you that that's the underlying tone of their relationship.
Well, is it because it's heading towards seeing red and you know that at that point?
You mean Hell's Bells?
Or Hell's Bells, yeah, not seeing red.
Seeing red's kind of a specter in this season, so yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there. Let's
It's part of it, but for me, it's also plays into how we've talked about it before, how Xander treats Anya. There's such an air of condescension towards her in a lot of the things that he does and says. And, Anya, especially in the wake of the episode where you find out her backstory, why she has such a traumatic association with bunnies and therefore why she's so terrified of them, and how she became a vengeance demon and therefore the trauma that she has around relationships. The fact that the undercurrent of their relationship is not that they are learning how to navigate being in a relationship where they love each other so much and they're just trying to figure out how to not let these nitpicks overwhelm. It feels off. It feels dissonant.
Well, I'm not going to say who, but I have known couples, friends, who communicate through humorous sniping. That is not my way. My way is open communication and anxious hypervigilance. So, but it is, I have seen it as a style rather than, because no one wants to be the bad guy. So rather than saying, hey, babe, and whenever someone says babe in a reality show, it is the most stabbing, aggressive word a couple can use. Babe, can you please pick up your socks? And so, like, it's not my communication style, but that sniping and they're saying "I'll never tell." The song is making them say this. Now, the Xander's patronizing of Anya, which I think in the early seasons comes from a place of she needs help, having been a demon for 1,000 years, but becomes patronizing and rude as things go on, is a different thing. But in this particular song, the sniping that they're going at each other with, to me, I've known couples that do that. That and I find it deeply uncomfortable when I'm spending time with them. But it's a thing, and it is a way that no one wants to be the bad guy in it. No one, but resentment is building up, slow and steady. And so that song actually, to me, feels very realistic of a particular particular romantic relationship type. Is it pleasant? Well, other than the singing and dancing, no, absolutely not. But I and I think that them not talking about what they're dealing with and what's going on, I think works, of course, as foreshadowing of Hell's Bells. But I guess I hear you on it for sure.
Yeah, but it's just it also feels very much like it kind of contrasts the rest of the tone. It's like Anya keeps worrying about whether or not it's a book number as far as a breakaway hit, and then it's the most forgettable number in the show. It's the one that nobody says they want to sing "I'll Never Tell" when they think about the songs that they memorized from this show. Like they remember "Walk Through the Fire," they remember "Let Me Rest in Peace," they remember "Under Your Spell." That those are the ones that everybody I know that has ever watched this show anyway, that when they have talked about the songs that they memorized and sang back, those were the ones that they always thought of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose I get a pretty wide cross section of the fandom exposure, and there's there are fans of She, there are fans of Go Fish. And these are the episodes to me. I go back and watch my first season reviews now and cringe because you can hear me making the mistake of this is bad as opposed to this just isn't for me. I like that. I like that number. I like you said though. I my favorite number of that of the episode tends to be the one that's currently playing. And then on to the next one. But I hear you. I think that there's a chance that the writers thought that the Anya and Xander arc was going to be more major this season than it turned out to be, but I don't know. Or more of a source of captivating drama than the things that ended up being that way. But that's purely speculation, of course.
Yeah.
And now, you forgot Fluffy says, I like Hell's Bells. I like it too. I'm going to make a defense of it, but I already did in Restless. Sorry, go ahead.
No, the thing that strikes me most about this episode is there's aside from all the stuff about Giles, which they're trying to seed into the idea that he's going to leave so that they can exit Anthony Stewart Head because he wanted to walk away and only come back for a few episodes at a time. There's some very subtle things in this that I love. I love the fact that Sweet at the end, when Willow is threatening him, she's saying, "Get out." I smell power.
I smell power.
And then 2 episodes later, we have Smashed and Wrecked.
Yeah.
So just very, everything about Willow is just kind of cooking to the surface as far as her magic and how out of control she is getting with the way that she's going to use it. Tara weaving her way through everything else that's going on during Giles's number and realizing that Willow had cast a spell to make Tara forget the argument. It's a very subtle moment that brings her into his musical number, but it's also incredibly sad to watch because nobody else is noticing that she's in distress because they're all tied up with their own musical numbers.
Everyone's selfish right now. Everyone's in their heads, except for Spike, oddly.
And she's running up the ladder. She's crying, or she's trying not to cry. She's got this thing cupped in her hands, and she's looking through the books, and she's realizing what's happened. And even at the end, when Giles finally backs off on she should have gone alone, and he rounds everybody up, and they're marching into the fire to go to Buffy's side. They get to the bronze. They get to the situation. Buffy's in her confrontation, and all Giles says is she needs backup, and sends in Anya and Tara, the two Scoobies with whose connection is Buffy's is the newest.
Mm-hmm.
Not the two that are her metaphorical heart and her metaphorical spirit. Not the two that have been her backup and her support system for as long as he's been her watcher.
It definitely speaks to her inner life and what's going on right now, for sure.
Exactly. And, he doesn't say she needs backup. We need to all get in there. We need to all step in and help her. He just sends in Willow and Tara as the backup dancers. It really highlighted for me that he's made the decision to force Buffy to stand on her own because he thinks that's the only way it's going to wake her up out of what is happening, because he doesn't know until she reveals it to everyone that what's wrong is that she was ripped out of heaven and not hell. But even then, as everybody says, from there he's just committed to his decision, and he leaves.
the next episode happens.
The reveal does nothing.
Well,
but
it's such a
subtle character. No, I was just going to say it's such a subtle character play. And I know you need to wrap up. I love the fact that Spike, in stepping in to rescue her, was walking into the fire, literally, because she was starting to smoke. She was starting to burn. Mm-hmm. He's the one that's the most susceptible to fire because he's a vampire and he's dead, and fire will kill him faster than any of the humans. And yet he's the one that walked into the fire to go get her.
There's also one of my favorite bits of set decoration is in that shot where he catches her. And it's so quick. He catches her, she's looking at him, and if you look on the wall behind them, there is a painting that is incredibly symbolic of the entire show, and it is a 1-second shot, and I love the composition. I love it. Everyone should go look at it. It's the shot where Spike catches her. But anyway, go ahead.
And he does when they're all dancing at the end, and it's the big musical number, and Sweet's magic has still got everybody caught up before it fully dissipates after he leaves. Mm-hmm. Spike is the first one to break free of it, and he literally all of a sudden he pulls his hand away. Oh bollocks! And he walks out, and that allows Buffy to break free. Everybody else is still caught up in it, and she goes after him, and he says, "Go have your 76 trombones moment." Cute as a music fan, so of course I love that. And then they have their sweeping kiss, which just makes the Spuffy girl in me very, very happy.
I remember my first reaction to that was, oh no, no, this is not the way. But it sells me later on down the line. Well, I do need to move on. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Glad to finally start getting back to these.
Yeah. Let me go over to Josh and then to Tom. Hello.
Ian.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I love your shirt.
Thank you. Yes, I am delinquent entirely on keeping you up to date on the modern Star Trek happenings, but the Strange New Worlds musical was pretty damn good.
Every time I've gotten my hopes up, oh, is this the season of Picard that's going to be... no, I don't want to watch it. And the other thing, too, is I don't know. It's just, it reminds me of that. The Onion did a video about Trekkies seeing the new J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie, and they're all pissed because it's too exciting and it's full of pretty people.
Right.
I wanted to see pretty people doing exciting things. I just watch sports. But where were all the long diatribes about politics and philosophy? It's like, no, that's me. That's what I want out of my Star Trek.
Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there
exactly.
it sits.
Give me a monologue about dignity and honor and what is the right thing.
I'm having an unexpected success with my new wife. We're watching Star Trek Voyager, and she is loving it.
That sentence doesn't begin. That's not a common sentence. I'm
Largely,
having a new success watching Star Trek Voyager.
like, I like Star Trek Voyager, but she's really invested in it, largely because of the romance tropes.
I like Voyager. I think Voyager is probably the most like new Trek of the shows. DS9 was the soap. TNG for me was the perfect center. And Voyager definitely has that like adventure in the stars kind of thing to it. Although Janeway, I love Janeway. Yeah,
I'd follow Janeway into hell.
She's the reason to watch that show to me,
unquestionably.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
anyway,
it's good Trek.
Yeah, good Trek. So what were we talking about? Oh yes, one of the best episodes of television ever made. Once More with Feeling. Tell me about the episode, Josh.
So my top 3 musicals are I've been accused of being a bit of a basic bitch in the past. I love my pumpkin spice lattes.
Sure, me too.
I tuck in my polo shirts into my pants. But like I like The West Side Story, The Sound of Music, and Moulin Rouge.
Oh, I forgot about Moulin Rouge. Yeah.
Like
Moulin Rouge sets my ADD into overdrive, but I do love some of the songs.
I can see how that would absolutely grate on every single one of your nerves.
It is blinding. Just sensory overload. It's sensory overload for me.
No, but yeah, I mean, this episode is phenomenal. I also got to watch it live during first run way back when, and because as a middle schooler, I wasn't really reading the trade papers at the time. It was a surprise to me that it was a musical, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's a musical!" And I was on the edge of my couch with my mom that night, and we were just having a good time with it. Really enjoyed the fact that it was a musical, and as I've gotten older, I've really come to appreciate what this episode accomplishes.
Oh God, yeah.
And it accomplishes so much, and I mean, all the aforementioned character moving. There's one shot right at the beginning of Giles and Tara's duet. Right when Giles walks out and joins Tara.
Yeah.
The shot of Buffy and Willow. No, the shot of after that, the shot of Buffy and Willow facing each other at the front of the magic box with both Giles and Tara looking ahead and Buffy and Willow facing each other. And that one shot is the whole season. It's Buffy and Willow as deuteragonists. It's Willow as in my opinion, the antagonist, the big bad of the season.
Sure.
And it's the whole like it's just so beautifully done. And the best part is they don't quite, it's like Angelus. They don't quite know that they are on the opposite side from each other yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the way that they're facing each other. I love that shot.
I think I'm normally, I'll have to go back and watch it. I think I'm normally so taken up with the song itself and the emotions being expressed on the other side that I tend to miss it. I'll go take a look.
There's a lot of that in the episode, and I think it's cleverly done on purpose that way, where you can easily miss what's happening because you're so caught up in what's happening.
Yeah. Well, the shot where Spike catches Buffy, on the wall behind them is a mural, and on one side of Buffy is a child with boxing gloves, and on the other side of Buffy is a woman with boxing gloves, and Buffy caught in the middle. And it's 1 second. You know, that's how dense the episode is this gorgeous mural in the background that completely kind of sums up the journey of the show, and her being a fighter is a throwaway, if there is such a thing. You know, it's just so gorgeous.
Spike's lines to Buffy, like the whole that, you know, heaven, like all that gets me. But Spike's lines to Buffy about, you know, you've got to go on living so that one of us is living, like that always gets me. That always gets me real hard.
Yeah. Life isn't bliss. Life is just this. Yeah, it's tough to unpack. That's the thing, is like these themes are so, in a casual discussion of the show, as casually a discussion as you can have of something like this, there's just so much there.
You know, I've also dealt with some mental health issues of my own, and been pretty damn depressed at a couple of points in my life as well. And season 6, I think, is a much more adult season than the other seasons of Buffy. I think it sets itself apart in that way, and I came to appreciate it much more as an adult than I did as a 13-year-old when I was watching it the first time. As a 13-year-old, season 6 is a little boring. There's not a whole lot of action.
It deliberately so.
Drama. Yeah,
that's like Reprise. There's something anticlimactic about this season. There's great battles and there's all of that, but there's something about she's literally died saving the world and then comes back. Like we said, Sisyphus's rock rolls back down the hill and she's got to go and get it again. And that's this whole season, is the going and getting it.
Yeah.
And it's to make that, I think that's challenging storytelling to make, both from a construction standpoint of like, where's the climax? How do you write this? I don't understand why Reprise and Epiphany are satisfying, but they are. Like, because they just don't follow that conventional pattern of, there is no climax in the story, except that there is no climax in Reprise. And that's fascinating. That's I think that is unique and interesting. But it's not easy, right?
It doesn't necessarily make for gripping television.
No. Season 3 is, I think, arguably the most perfect season of the show, in that it has the fewest number of sort of down notes. They're like, they got away from the Go Fishes and the killed by deaths of the, yeah, exactly. And it's just great episode to great episode to great episode. But it doesn't, to me, it just doesn't hit like this. It doesn't have that I don't feel seen in the same way that I feel seen by Buffy's journey here, especially things like Double Meat Palace, which is so boring. And that's the point, right? It's boring and disgusting, but the boring is the point of the episode. That things are tedious and monotonous, and sometimes you bang your toxic boyfriend behind a dumpster because that's preferable to nothing.
Yeah.
You know, that's so interesting. That's just really interesting storytelling.
I worked
anyway,
fast
I'm
food.
sorry. You got me
I worked
excited.
fast food for a while. And Double Meat Palace is deeply relatable.
It made a plug.
Uh-huh. But yeah, I mean, it's, I think I've mentioned this before as we talked about season 6, but for me, season 6 is where the mind, heart, spirit metaphor is at its best, at its peak, at its most crystallized. And it is only occasionally at the expense of the actual characters themselves.
Sure.
And one of them is Giles. Giles gets a bit of the shaft this season, and I'm on the fence. I'm torn about whether or not this is in character or out of character of Giles to leave or whatever like that. It's definitely a mistake for him to leave.
It's a mistake.
And which he admits when he comes back. He apologizes to Buffy.
I never
shouldn't have left. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and somebody in the chat earlier mentioned it as well. But the only thing that I can hang my hat on for Giles leaving is that he knew that he would not be able to refuse Buffy continuing to push her responsibilities off on him. Because he backs off in 20 seconds in this episode. Like, he tries to put his foot down and then immediately is like, no, I got to go help.
I thought you handled that. Oh. Yeah. The way Anthony can handle a silence.
He knows he's going to keep...
have paused.
He knows he's going to keep rescuing her, keep saving her, because he loves her too much.
Yeah.
And so him leaving is as much for him as it is for her.
Yeah, I do think it's tough sometimes to distinguish between character sabotage versus characters we love making decisions that are hard to watch.
Yeah.
And there's so much of that this season. I mean, we talk about Giles. I hear Giles and Xander discussed way before I hear Willow and the magical roofie.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Well,
I have a lot to say.
We're
about
there. It's revealed, right? Like,
we'll get there when we talk. I'll be there with you when we talk about Tabula Rasa.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and there've been consent discussions, and I'm loath to get into that because it's such a painful, heavy conversation. But the last episode was yesterday. In this, they were fighting yesterday. Willow wiped her brain, and then they have sex in this episode. And would that have happened without the magical roofie? No. And that is horrifying. And it's just I suppose I love that the show is loaded with characters making decisions that are very hard to watch, because that's part of the thing that makes the show so relatable. Is would we have how many times have I taken the easy route? How many times have I done this? Have I done that? And you hope to learn from it. But it is interesting where we all sort of end up in the who we indict and who we let go. As fans, you know what I mean?
No, the indictment of Willow Rosenberg is before a grand jury right now. It's pending. I mean, my perspective. She's the season's big bad.
Oh yeah.
Like, not Dark Willow, just Willow.
I would agree with. I think that reading fits. But I also think that everything is so messy that there's an argument to be made that life itself is the villain.
I'll give you that thematically.
Yeah, I think that is a reading that also fits. But is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
Just like, we were talking about it a little bit during our rewatch, but the all in of every actor being willing to absolutely commit to the singing and the dancing. I think I specifically called out Emma and Nicholas, but
Emma's great.
Dear God, Sarah Michelle Gellar goes balls to the wall.
Yeah.
In every single one of her numbers, especially the dance number at the end. And successfully so. Like, it's astonishing to what they're able to accomplish this episode.
Yeah. I think in hindsight, what was read at the time as sort of her being difficult, I think we all sort of now understand as her like deep commitment to this character and to the model for kids that she was providing and all of that. And you can see that commitment on screen here for sure.
Unquestionably. Such a good episode. One of my top 5 for Buffy as well.
Easily. All right, bud. I appreciate you. Let me go over to Tom. I don't know why I do that. Hi, Tom. How you doing?
I'm good.
I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, me too. This is absolutely my favorite episode of television ever.
It's so good.
Yeah.
The thing I love too is, like, unlike The Body, where everyone can, like, we can all aesthetically say, like, oh my God, that was amazing.
Well, yeah.
This is easy to enjoy. Like, I don't know that anyone say I enjoy The Body.
Like I said last time, The Body is the best episode. But this is absolutely my favorite episode.
Yeah.
And when I remember when it first aired, actually I remember it was I knew it was coming because in the starting a couple of months before a couple of months before before Buffy premiered on UPN, there were ads about the fact that there was going to be a musical episode. And then I think starting about a month prior to the episode airing, there were I just remember the thing that I always remember seeing is the where do we go from here? That's the beginning, the first time they all saying where do we go from here? That shot is on TV on UPN before and after every episode of Buffy.
It's their bumper. It's
a promotional,
it's their bumper, yeah.
And so
it's interesting.
But,
I think that musicals as a genre, my impression is that musicals as a genre are so polarizing. There's the people who love them, them. The people who say I don't get into musicals don't say. It reminds me a little bit of country and western. I'm not down on the genre of country and western, but you rarely hear people like it's people seem to be all in, or like ugh, not the genre for me.
Well,
but maybe that as someone who is the musicals are okay type. That's my reading of it, whether that's accurate or not.
Yeah. But I kind of grew up in a musical comedy. Both my older siblings, my brother and sister, were in high school theater. So I got into high school theater. I went more into it than they ultimately did, but all my favorite musicals are ones that I've done. My favorite, my number 3 is the first musical I was ever in on stage. I was just in the chorus, but it's an absolutely wonderful musical called She Loves Me.
Okay.
And it is absolutely delightful. Everybody I know who's ever seen it has absolutely loved it. It's absolutely delightful. It's wonderful. It's based on a play and film. The film was starred Jimmy Stewart called Shop Around the Corner.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's been redone several times.
Yeah, but and then most recently was on Broadway with the guy who starred in Chuck.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a movie version of it in the last 20 years that was based on Shop Around the Corner that Lani and I watched. I can't remember what it is, but
okay, yeah.
Anyway,
my number 2, Hello Lately Eternal, is The Music Man, because that one was actually my father's favorite musical. He loved Robert Preston. He loved that show. He introduced to me, and I became a fan of it. And then I ultimately was in a production of it in the Barbershop Quartet. So that was that one. And then my absolute favorite musical of all time is 1776. My brother was in it
for me.
Yeah, my brother was in it in high school in 1975 because they were beating the Rush for the bicentennial. And he played Ben Franklin. And then 8 years later, I was in it in a summer stock production, and I played Ben Franklin. So those are my 3 favorite musicals of all time. But I remember when this first aired, I taped it. I had a videotape. Started the tape 5 minutes before it would start, and I taped up to half an hour after it was supposed to end because I didn't want to miss anything. And this was about this time I was unemployed or underemployed.
Sure.
So I had a lot of free time. So I watched this about the first month. I think I watched it about 20 times. So it is definitely the most watched episode I've ever of any show I've ever watched. Well, except for Classic Trek, because I've seen every episode of those dozens of times because it was,
sure,
we all watched it all the time. Yeah, but so that I absolutely love it. And every number is, for me, is terrific. I think Nick and Emma did an amazing
the dance numbers
considering,
incredible.
especially in terms of Nick, you can tell he's not trained in anything in that, but he gives it his all. He puts his whole heart into it, and he does. I thought he did a terrific job considering. I think Emma probably had some. My guess, she had some musical training, some dance training.
Especially, she's on heels the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
And to be crisp,
you don't dance that well on heels without some experience.
Yeah, exactly. To be that crisp, her motions, and in the it's subtle, but in the backup dancer sequence later on, I mean, you sort of watch her versus Amber, and you just see a crispness that can only come with training between the two of them.
Although I understand Amber had some dance training as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had actually had heard when they were creating this episode, that Sarah wasn't sure she wanted to do the singing, but then she read it, and she read it, and she was crying. She says, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I can't do a Marnie Nixon with this on me. I gotta be the one to sing it.
Yeah.
Because
it's the hit. I mean, it's the emotional hit of the.
Exactly. So
until we get to the ending.
Yeah. So she got a voice teacher and was terrific. And of course, Allison said, I can't sing. I can't sing. I'll prove it. I can't sing. She proved she can't sing. So she had very, very few lines, but she did have one of the best lines in the whole show.
One of the best. I think this line's mostly filler. And her look. That's we were talking about it during the rewatch. That line to me is so emblematic of what makes Mutant Enemy stuff special. It's during this pinnacle moment of high drama, and we're all sucked in, and we're feeling for Buffy, and we're wondering what's going to happen with Spike, and the brain wipe, and all of that, and Giles is leaving, and to have a joke in that moment. There's so many contexts where so many other contexts where I feel like that would sabotage what they're setting up. But somehow Mutant Enemy pulls that magic trick off 100 times throughout the show. I mean, you can't do it. You can't kill me. Angel says to Buffy. Cut to Oz. Arm, on the floor. Why does that work? I don't understand why it works, because it doesn't work for some other people. Like, the Marvel movies are a great example. There are great Marvel movies, but one of the accusations leveled against Marvel movies is how often it's easy to do Whedon stuff poorly. It's easy to just fill with quips and joke after joke after joke, but that's not what that is not what he does. And that's not what Mutant Enemy did with the show. Like, there's a magic and a balance in the dialogue that is unlike almost anything else that I've ever seen. And that Willow's lyric there to me stands out as what an example of that.
Yeah. But yeah, I when it was, I know when Giles in that scene when Giles says she needs backup, Anya, Tara, it's he sends in them because she needs backup for a musical number,
right?
And they're the ones who can do the dance and who look right behind her, and in terms of if you're looking at it as a musical, that's who needs to be there.
Yeah, the double meaning is so wonderful.
Yeah,
really, really great. Well, I do need to let everyone go. Is there anything else you want to mention about the episode?
Just writing, directing, acting, singing, wonderful. One of the best ever. Thank you.
Sure. I'm glad you made it. Well, that's it. 2 weeks we're doing Billy.
Billy.
Another
comedy episode. Great.
Yes.
So excited to talk about that.
A lighthearted
all these comedy episodes.
Go ahead, Patrick. What were you going to say?
I was going to say on that note, I would be beyond thrilled if you could somehow get my mirror again, as I would love to pick his brain.
I'll reach out to him, see if he wants to do a Q&A. He may be, I don't know, making television or something, but we'll see.
As far as I know, he's still in the middle of, he's still involved in the production of the 911 shows.
Yeah.
And if you've ever gotten sucked into those, you remember very quickly where Tim Minear cut his teeth.
If I do that, I'm not like what I might do is solicit questions from y'all first, and then just do talk to him about doing a half hour if he's willing to do a half hour, and I'll throw your questions at him rather than getting all of us in at the same time. But we'll see what's possible. That would be fascinating. I'd love to just ask him, what? So yeah, Jack and I have gone back and forth about, wait, so is the episode saying all men, or sort of what? So it would be interesting to, even so, I'd be interested to go around and hear everyone's talk about it. But that kind of material also is just so hard to book club.
Say, Tim Minear shares a writing credit on this episode with Jeffrey Bell.
Oh yeah, your favorite.
Exactly. Yeah, mine too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and Tim's been incredibly blunt about.
I love that about him.
Yeah,
He's
about
just,
the episodes.
Yeah, that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
We used to start by watching the episode guides, and he scared the pants off me when he started showing up because he showed up to Sanctuary. And I hate Sanctuary. And he was in the chat as we were watching my Sanctuary.
He probably dug that.
We were watching my Sanctuary video where I was not going light on how much I don't like that episode.
You were roasting it.
And mostly what I roasted is hashtag not my Buffy. That this doesn't sound like Buffy. This isn't the Buffy what? And Tim's response was, oh, that's fine with me. Joss wrote all those scenes. Joss insisted on writing the Buffy dialogue in Sanctuary. But it was really funny. And he also was, I think he actually came to, the one he came to was the Reprise hangout. And we were
just a door fest.
We were kind of, he brought up the sexual tension between Lindsay and Angel and how intentional that was. And he was talking about the elevator to hell, and he said that was bullshit. There weren't supposed to be any external shots of the elevator in the script, if I remember correctly, but it was added later as a part of the whole thing. He just had Angel and not Lauren, Angel and
Holland.
Manners Pharmacy.
The Netherlands.
Yeah, going into the elevator, the doors closing, and they open again, and that's the home office. As opposed to the bait and switch of the elevator descending to hell. Again, that's the distinction I would make between the two of them.
Well, the other thing he said, I remember, is he said Whedon added a bunch of extra dialogue to that scene, and he was like, I thought all that dialogue was superfluous. I wish he would have left it out.
Yeah,
and he also shat on the director for the very last scene, because there was not supposed to be any suggestion that like Angel was losing his soul. And like he was like, yeah, that was
yeah. He called that bullshit as well. Like, yeah, that's bullshit.
I also
everyone hates that. I don't know anyone who likes that.
Hate it.
He also gave me a shot, which I thought was which I had no problem with, which was something in the form of I love Ian's, or I like Ian's videos, even if he does make more of them than maybe is really there, or something like that. I don't remember exactly the way he phrased it. I was like, hey man, that's why we're here.
Hey man, Joss himself said, art is not your pet, it's your kid. It grows up and talks back to you.
No, but I appreciated him. I like that sort of set the table for the entire thing. Was like, hey, I appreciate the honesty. I don't care, but I appreciate the honesty. So yeah, I'll reach out to him. But if he's interested, then it'll probably just be we won't get together for it. I'll just see if he's interested in doing a live stream and talking about it with me. Just because it's easier for me to focus and
Sure.
All of that. But I will definitely solicit questions from y'all to ask him the way we did the last time. See if we can get a good interview going. But that's it. I'm still interested in the discussion. It's a rich topic.
Yeah, I love that episode.
It's shooting for a lot.
Whatever kind of discussion we have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just like the episode itself, rich with material, not one I'm excited to get to. But we'll talk about it. Anyway, let me let you guys go. Thank you, everyone in chat. I appreciate you. There was a donation. Oh, I forgot to acknowledge the donation.
The dance of capitalist superiority.
Dance of capitalist superiority.
I fixed the buttons. The dance just occurred. But you guys dancing is better for me anyway. You Forgot Fluffy says Buffy musical fans should try Repo the Genetic Opera. It stars Anthony Stewart Head. Don't let Paris Hilton's casting deter you.
Oh never my!
Thank you for the donation. You Forgot Fluffy. All right, cheers, everyone.
I will say, we need to also shout out the epic Batman sweep of Spike's coat as he goes over that fence towards the end.
All right.